All right. So in chapter 3 of Ishmael, and this chapter gets pretty rich. We kind of get cooking here, which is great. So narrator walks in. There's a tape recorder on the table. Okay, great. Comes in handy in just a bit. And remember that the task that Ishmael assigned the narrator was asking him. It is a him. I think he refers to himself as a male. So again, I'm not trying to be insensitive or just using patriarchal language here. Yeah. Or giving patriarchal preference to the main character. I know that somewhere in here it is referred to that at the chapter 1 he says, you have to wonder why this man is so indignant. So, all right. Anyway, Ishmael gives the narrator this assignment to come back and give the origin story, the creation story rather, of this taker culture. Okay. And think about this for a second. Okay. If somebody asked you, how did the world begin? What's our creation story? I mean, that's kind of a hard question, right? And I mean, I'm sure that many of us would probably respond differently. Some of us might have, a scientific response. Some of us might have a religious response, maybe a blending of both. But still, it's a hard question. Okay. All right. And so again, the narrator says we have no creation myth. Unless you're talking about the one in Genesis, don't be absurd. Ishmael says, if an 8th grade teacher invited you to explain how all this began, how all of this world began, would you read the class the first chapter of Genesis? No, certainly not. Then what would you give them? I would give them an account, but it certainly wouldn't be a myth. Okay, it would just be a story. Okay, and so in section 2, in section 2. I think the narrator does a fine job. Right? He says billions of years ago, big thing exploded, some life formed, bacteria, then, stuff began in water, and then on land, and reptiles, and then eventually mammals, and then blah, blah, blah. And it's kind of just a general broad stroke of evolution, really. I mean, frankly, I'd probably give a similar account. I mean, my scientific knowledge is minimal, and I mean, I can recall what I learned growing up. I can recall what I'm mildly aware of now, but it'd be roughly the same, right? I would claim knowledge, going back to last week, I would probably claim knowledge that, evolution began this time, and then this thing, and then this thing, but do I really know? Again, that's part of the question here. Okay. Now, and you, an intelligent and moderately well-educated person, would have me believe that isn't a myth. What's so mythical about it, right? Certainly it's a myth. Listen to it, Ishmael says. So tape recorder comes in handy. They play it back. And Ishmael is just he's having kind of issue here, right? And he's kind of teasing the narrator. Okay. Then Ishmael gives his own story in section 3 that kind of compares to the story that the narrator gave in section 2. And the idea, right, and I think and I hope that many of you kind of saw this connection here, okay? And in section 4, we get the connection. Okay? Blah, 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 blah. Nothing much came out of me for 90 seconds or so, except for maybe waves of baffled fury. Then I said, that's not fair. What do you mean? I don't exactly know what I mean. You made some sort of point, but I don't know what it is. You don't. No, I don't. What did the jellyfish mean when it said, but finally jellyfish appeared? It meant that was all it was leading up to. This is what the whole 10, 15 billion years of creation were leading up to. Jellyfish. I agree. And why does your account of creation end with the appearance of jellyfish? I suppose I tittered. Because there was more to come beyond jellyfish. That's right. Creation didn't end with jellyfish. Still to come there were vertebrates and amphibians and reptiles and mammals and, of course, finally humans. Right. And so your account of creation ends, and finally humans appeared. Yes? Meaning what? Meaning that there was no more to come, meaning that creation had come to an end. That's all what it was leading up to. Yes? Of course. Everyone in your culture knows this. The pinnacle was reached in humans. Humans are the climax of the whole cosmic drama of creation. Yes? When humans finally appeared, creation came to an end because its objective had been reached. There was nothing left to create. Well, that seems to be the unspoken assumption. It's certainly not always unspoken. The religions of your culture aren't reticent about it. Humans are the end product of creation. Humans are the creature from whom all the rest was made. This world, this solar system, this galaxy, the universe itself, right? Everyone in your culture knows that the world wasn't created for jellyfish or salmon or iguanas or gorillas. It was created for humans. That's right. Ishmael fixed on me with a sardonic eye, and this is not mythology. Well, the facts are facts. Yes, certainly, facts are facts, even when they're embroidered in mythology. What about the rest? Did the entire cosmic process of creation come to an end 3 million years ago, right on this little planet, with the appearance of humans? No. Did the entire planetary process of creation come to an end 3 million years ago with the appearance of humans? No. Did evolution come to a screeching halt just as humans had arrived? No, of course not. Then why did you tell it that way? Well, I guess I told it that way because that's the way that it's told. That's certainly the way that it's told among the takers. Certainly the only way it can be told. The universe went on as before. The planet went on as before. Humans' appearance caused no more stir than the appearance of jellyfish. Very true. Ishmael gestured toward the tape recorder. So what are we to make of that story you told? I bared my teeth in a rueful grin. It's a myth, incredibly, it's a myth. Okay? So just to make sure that the point here is clear in this section of this chapter, is when we think about how we would tell the story of how things came to be this way, and we would first give with kind of our creation story, would we do something similar that the narrator did? Would we do something similar that the narrator did, which was to claim that, blah, 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 this happened, and then humans appeared. We're good. That's it. Right? Now, what does that mean implicitly for the way that we think about ourselves in relationship to the world if that is where we end our story? Okay? What does that mean for how we view ourselves in relationship to the world, in relationship to other human beings, in relationship to non-human beings, in relationship to trees, in relationship to everything out there, if we end our story with the thought that everything ceased to continue to be created when humans appeared? Okay. Continuing on in chapter 6 here, with that as again a focal point. Okay. Ishmael says every story is based on a premise or working out of a premise. Okay. So, the story being enacted by the world of the takers also has a premise which is embodied in the part of the story you told me today. See if you can figure it out. Okay. If the world wasn't made for frogs or lizards or rabbits, if it wasn't made for jellyfish, then what was it made for? The world was made for humans. Everyone in your culture knows that, don't they? Even atheists who swear there is no God and the world was made for humans. Yes, I'd say so. All right. Well, that's the premise of the taker's story. The world was made for humans. I can't quite grasp it. I can't quite see why it's a premise. Because the people of your culture made it a premise, took it as a premise, and they said, well, what if the world was made for us? Okay, keep going. Think of the consequence of taking that as your premise. If the world was made for you, then what? Okay, I think I see what you mean, I think. If the world was made for us, then it belongs to us. And that means we can do what we damn well please with it. Okay? So the idea that in our mythology, in our taker way of thinking, if we are convinced by the fact that the world was made for humans, well, then what does that allow us to do? And allow us to think? It makes us consider that the world belongs to us. And in particular, if that is the case, then that also means that we can justify whatever we damn well please because the world belongs for us and to us. Exactly. That's what's been happening here for the past 10,000 years. You've been doing what you damn well please with the world. And of course you mean to go on doing what you damn well please because the whole damn thing belongs to you. Yes, I said. Well, that's actually pretty amazing. I mean, you hear this 50 times a day. People talk about our environment, our seas, our solar system. I've even heard people talk about our wildlife. Okay? And I think that is pretty profound, right? And so thinking about, again, how things came to be this way, what stories have we learned, what stories do we tell in response to that question of how things came to be this way? And is it the case that we hold the belief, and maybe would even claim knowledge on it, again, still room for some discrepancy there, but would we claim that the world belongs to us? Okay. All right. We'll stop there for chapter 3. Yeah, stop there. So next video is chapter 4 and probably 5. Great.